So, hello and welcome back yet again. We are actually back with Beryl this time, and we are going to explore the Eastern Plaguelands, which is pretty much where we left off with Onyx at the border of the Eastern Plaguelands. Did I just say Western Plaguelands? Good job, me. Anyway, we were at the border of the Eastern Plaguelands, which is a very big zone, which I don't know that it has any necessarily hidden aspects to it, but it does have a lot of interesting little nooks and crannies and two dungeons that we might go ahead and do because there are some cool things in both of those that are also kind of neat to look into. So we are going to jump back in and see where Beryl is. So give me a minute and we'll join her in the Eastern Plaguelands. Alright, we are here with Beryl and I have the map pulled up. As you can see, it doesn't look like it's that much bigger of a zone than the others that we have gone through. It's just packed with so much stuff, and probably your best way to hit all of the salient points in the zone is actually to do the quest here that starts with Fiona and do her Caravan Quest, which is actually, it's a really fun quest chain and it will take you through the entire zone. We're not actually going to do that right now. I'm just going to kind of hit the high points. But I figured I would show that to you. You have to go through with Fiona and get companions along the way. And that does sort of lead you to just about all of the really big highlights throughout this entire zone. I think there's maybe two that you don't have to do, but if you get them all, you get an achievement, which is kind of fun. So, the first little thing that is kind of neat to go and look at, I almost forgot that I can fly again, and I just flew into the Western Plaguelands like a silly person. Alright, here we go, back into the Eastern Plaguelands. Now, the first quest that Fiona will have you do will send you over here to rescue one of her two paladin pals, who is this dwarf. And if you just rescue him, that's all well and good and kind of fun, but you kind of miss out on a hidden quest chain over in the other side of the cave that he has you check out that leads to kind of a hidden vendor. The vendor doesn't sell anything too exciting or different, but it's a vendor that you have to do his quest chain to get him to be able to buy and sell for you. Another thing probably everybody knows, but if you kill these carrion grubs as you're going along, you have a chance when you loot them of getting a battle pet. And that battle pet is Mr. Grubs. I have far too many of these battle pets, but it's just basically a miniature version of the big things that you've been killing. I kind of love WoW's battle pets because they're a lot of fun. Kind of like Pokemon, and just like Pokemon, you end up getting that whole gotta catch 'em all attitude. And it leads to a lot more exploration and a lot more, I would say, fun poking around in corners and things. It's also, and I'm sure a lot of people would look down on me for this, but it's also a fantastic way to level up a character if you're not really into, say, doing the whole dungeon and raid thing, which is not my thing. I respect everyone that's into dungeons and raids. It's just not my thing until I'm so far over level that it's sort of a trivial thing for me. But you get character experience as you level up your battle pets. and there are dailies for it. Alright, now there aren't really any houses in Eastern Plaguelands per se, at least not the way I define a house, as having a bed and a table and chairs. But there are a lot of cool little abandoned houses that are filled with all of these neat little skeletons and things. We'll zoom in and look, and you can see this skeleton has tusks, so we are going to say it was probably an orc skeleton. The other thing about Eastern Plaguelands is it literally is a plague land. Pretty much anything that you see in Eastern Plaguelands is either an undead or a zombie, just not savory. It's a very dangerous place, and it's a place that used to kill people very easily back when they were low level. Now as you're higher level, everything just dies with one shot, which is something that I would appreciate, but it's not quite like that when you're doing this at level. But if you go trotting through this cave, killing everything along the way, you get to the other end of it, and you are at another just completely ruined little town. That again, it's full of a bunch of busted up houses, and one house that has I'm not exactly even sure what on earth he is. He kind of looks like the undead that are all around him, but he's not an enemy, so he must be at least alright. And if you do his quest line, which is to kill a bunch of undead pigs, these guys right here, and get his bill of sale back for him, he then becomes a vendor for you. Kinda nice. Now you can poke around in all these houses. They've got stuff in them, but unfortunately, like I said, not exactly stuff that you can interact with, but it's still kinda neat. You can definitely poke around after you kill the cannibal ghouls and undead mages, and just kind of have fun, pretend that you are a explorer. But the guy who is the vendor is back here. You have to dodge around these cannibal ghouls, and he's back in this house here. Now it's not this dwarf Egan, it is this guy right here who definitely looks like he is an undead, and he is Augustus the Touched. And after you do his quest chain, he becomes a vendor for you.
Be quick about your business.
He sells a bunch of mushrooms and a crazy grab bag. He didn't have that last time, so let's see what's in it.
Victory for Sylvanas.
Ah, well look at that. I got a pair of gloves from him. So I guess he does sell a few interesting things for you. Alright. Once we leave Terrordale, we're gonna just keep on flying. Go over this Torchwood area, which has got another bunch of plague towers and just kind of general nastiness like that. Now, throughout Eastern Plaguelands, there are these little safe zones, and there are all of these guard towers. They're usually where you're going to end up to get your flight points and to get your questing hubs. And you've got a lot of really cool quests up in this area that are... It's a very worthwhile zone to quest in. It's got a lot of lore to it, and it's got a lot of just general interesting stuff. It also has this dungeon here, which I will probably take you through later on in a separate video, and that is Stratholme. It used to be the big hub of one of the big human cities, and it was poisoned basically by a load of grain that turned all of the citizens into basically these walking, shambling zombies that you see around all through Eastern Kingdoms. And when you go into this dungeon, you're going into it as it is, filled with undead, filled with all sorts of generalized nastiness. If you want to see what the city was like in its heyday, and to also see a unique vendor that sells a flower that you cannot get anywhere else in the game, you have to go to the other continent of Kalmandor and go into the caverns of time and go back in time, and you can see the culling of Stratholme when Arthas, the prince of Lordaeron, killed all of the poisoned citizens in the city, and that was his first step into becoming the evil Lich King. But like I said, we'll probably go through that in a separate video. There's also, it's not another dungeon necessarily, but it is a different portion of Stratholme, and you can get into it by going through this gate over here. You can't really get into it any other way, but you can go in this gate right here. The cool thing about this second dungeon is there is a mount that drops that I have never gotten, so when we go through it, any luck, maybe I'll get a mount. That would be really cool. I would love to get a mount on video. Alright, over here you have the Belithian Lodge, and I'm probably pronouncing that terribly, but it's full of undead rangers, which were blood elves, or actually at the time they were high elves, who have also fallen to the plague. Now right over here is the gate where we left Beryl's sister Onyx. Unfortunately, since she's also one of my characters, they can't ever actually run into each other and interact, at least in any way other than in my mind, but figured I would show you that. Now, go past the lodge here. There's a little area that is full of undead zombies. More undead zombies, but these are troll zombies, and they're cannibals. And the one interesting thing when you go in through here, if you get too close to these graves, they rise. You have to actually take them out. Which, if you are doing this and questing at level, can kill you awfully fast. Alright, we're gonna go along over here to another just terrible, desecrated. You can definitely see that this was a beautiful, beautiful area, especially when you do the quests that send you back in time. And now it's just described quite easily as Plaguelands, and I just realized I to turn off one thing in the background that is showing. There we go. Of course, now it's just doing that weird glitch that it did, but I didn't realize that it said exploring Azeroth through that whole time. I am the worst YouTuber. I could hardly say I'm actually a YouTuber. Here we have another tower. Like I said, they tend to be questing hubs, and they're good to have. Now up ahead is one of those daily quests that I told you about that basically will let you play Pokemon to a certain extent. But whenever you see a NPC with one of these blue exclamation points and a bunch of pets by their side, you know that you can do a daily pet battle. And if you've played Pokemon, it's essentially the same idea. You know, it's, you know which types are stronger than other types, and you just sort of roll with it. Now this is an interesting area. This is Light's Hope Chapel. It is another questing hub. It's also where you can pick up the final member of the Caravan if you're doing the Fiona's Caravan quest line, and it is this guy, Gez Nozzle Rocket. And usually when you pick him up, he is your final caravan member, and he is where you will end up getting the achievement. I think you end up needing 6 caravan members, if I am not mistaken. There's also a few other interesting little things over here, like this nice little crypt and this wonderful graveyard. I think this graveyard might actually have the grave of Arthas's horse Invincible, but I might be wrong about that. Like I said, Arthas was the Prince of Lordaeron, and I do know that there is his horse's grave. I just can't remember if it's in this cemetery or if it's in some other cemetery. I will have to look that up and find out. Oh, that player just gave me a power word, which I think is very nice. That's one of the things I like the most about World of Warcraft is, in general, people are just pretty darn cool. But yeah, you can go down into this crypt, which, I mean, it's a crypt. It's full of all sorts of bones and things. I know a lot of people on this server of Moonguard do a lot of role-playing, especially when they're playing sort of the more righteous and holy characters. But yeah, there's a whole big quest chain that leads you down here, and you're helping your paladin pals and Fiona's Caravan. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. There's a couple other areas in Eastern Plaguelands that I feel like don't get enough attention because there's not actually any questing that sends you to them. Like, pretty much every place in the Eastern Plaguelands, if you do the Caravan Quest chain, you're gonna see most of it. One interesting thing is if you go up into this Death's Breach, you can see where they make Death Knights. And the Death Knights have their own really intriguing storyline. And they basically were puppets of the Lich King who broke free and now fight for either the Alliance or the Horde. It's, I haven't played a Death Knight in a long time, but I do know that you have to redeem yourself when you play as a Death Knight. And when you first start out, you have to go to either Orgrimmar, which is over on Kalmandor, or you have to go to Stormwind, and as you go in, the citizens will pelt you with like rotten bananas and shout insults at you. Because the Death Knights for a very long time were under the control of the Lich King and doing horrible, horrible things. And I can't remember when I found this area, but this area, which I think might be part of the Death Knight storyline, is now just a big empty zone. None of these places count as houses in my estimation by having usable furniture, but if you have a character or a guild that maybe is like here on Moonguard that is into role-playing, and you want an entire town, a couple of the houses like this one you can't go in, but most of the houses you can go in. They're in ruins, but you know, it is what it is. But this is an entire town with nothing in it. It's interesting, like, you have the blacksmith shop here. You've got an inn, you have a ruined church. Like, it's a very interesting area, and it's pretty cool. Like, if you have a guild, or if you just have some friends and you want to come and hang out and role play, this is one absolutely excellent place to do it. Like I said, there's even a completely empty town hall over here. You know, you could do almost anything you wanted. There's the ruined church. I've spent a lot of time with friends just in this area, just making up our own storylines. When you get bored with the quests that World of Warcraft provides for you, you can make your own. In fact, I've had some really interesting adventures with making up quests, which is something that you can do with a couple of different add-ons. And like I said, there's this nifty little church back here, completely empty. It definitely looks like it's been gone through, but the candles are still lit, you know? And then one other fun thing that I found sometime last year when we were running around out here with some friends is I found out that there's also a completely empty but still really cool mine back in this back area past the blacksmiths and the forge. And yeah, it's got all of the mine fittings still in it, just no people. So, like I said, it's just something that I find really interesting and kind of neat. In a way, it also is kind of sad to me that you have all of this stuff and no quests, no NPCs, and no real reason to come in this area other than curiosity, which is what brought me here. But yeah, got this whole big complete mine, and you know, like I said before, I started getting into the whole role-playing thing because it's like cooperative storytelling. And when you have a big empty area like this, you can do a lot of cooperative storytelling. And it becomes a whole heck of a lot of fun. And, you know, like so many other places, there are hints that there was a bit of violence in this area, but no story other than what I guess I make up in my own mind, unless somebody knows of any actual lore in the area. Now, there really aren't too many other things in this Eastern Plaguelands. Like I said, there's a lot, and at the same time, there's not a lot. Like, there's not a lot of actual housing or any of those things that gets me all excited, but there's a lot of just fun questing and just neat little things that you can do. Now, you can go over to one more questing zone, which I really recommend that everybody do at least once in their World of Warcraft career if you play, and that is to do the entire Darrowshire quest chain. It's a rather tragic story, and you also get one of your caravan members there, so I guess if you do the caravan questing, you're probably going to go to Darrowshire. But it tells the story of the Redpath family and the betrayal and the tragedy there. And the quest chain starts with little Pamela Redpath doesn't know that she's dead. That's sort of one of the little tragedies. She wants you to find her dolly, and it's just kind of sad. It's also kind of really cool, but yeah, definitely kind of sad. Oh, and it looks like there are some people playing in this area, but I figured I would at least show you little Pamela. Now, if you want to see little Pamela still alive and well, if I can do it without actually. There we go. If you want to see little Pamela still alive and well, you have to go into the Caverns of Time and do the dungeon that's there, and you go back in time and you can see Pamela and Joseph Redpath and all of the characters that you'll meet that are ghosts in the Eastern Plaguelands, but you'll see them back when they were actually still alive. But yeah, that's honestly about it. I feel like if I honestly feel like I could probably spend 4 hours just doing the quests in this zone, but we're not going to do that. I do think I will probably be doing probably 2 more videos in this zone here in the next week or so, and that's just going through the dungeons because they're really cool. And World of Warcraft puts a lot of effort into their dungeons. At least they used to. I haven't gone through all of the new dungeons as much, but especially in the Eastern Kingdoms in Kalmandor, these dungeons were huge and just detailed and really, really neat and full of all sorts of little hidden characters and things that a lot of times when you're running through at level with a dungeon group, you don't get the time to stop and actually look at. So that's kind of something I would also like to do throughout this series is go into these dungeons, clean them out, and then we can just poke around in the dungeon itself. So, if that is something that you are interested in, you can join me next week when we go through Stratholme. And then probably the week after that, we'll be doing the East Wall, the dead side of Stratholme, and maybe getting them out. I'll cross my fingers for it. But please leave me a thumbs up if you want to. It always makes me smile. I stopped with that because I forgot my words. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing. I do all sorts of other things. I read books, I go for walks, I draw pictures. Sometimes I play World of Warcraft, and sometimes I play The Sims, and maybe one day, if I ever get a capture card, I'll break out all of my old Nintendo games. But other than that, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening or morning or day or whatever time it is when you see this. And thank you so much, and I will talk to you later.